As human beings, we like to think that we have control over ourselves and our actions. It's a way to make our infinitesimal size in the face of the many mysteries of the universe feel more bearable. But sometimes, forces beyond our control cause us to behave in manners of which we never thought ourselves possible. And sometimes those forces are not of our world, but are instead demonic in nature. Number 5. Amy Stamatis, 2006. Amy Stamatis was a nurse living in Searcy, Arkansas, and working at a hospital in the nearby town of Little Rock. The then 49-year-old was writing reports and suddenly realized that she had completely forgotten her training and could not remember any of the details of how to do her job. Not being able to continue in the field that she had dedicated her life to, she was forced to resign her post. Despite having been a jogger for years, she suddenly found herself unable to engage in that activity either. One by one, the things that brought her joy were suddenly becoming out of reach. Her mental condition worsened with incidents of her hearing voices, removing her clothes in public, suddenly screaming at loved ones, and climbing a 7-story parking ramp with the intention of leaping off of it. Although police officers managed to talk her down from this incident, the voices she was hearing continued to convince her to commit acts of self-harm, culminating in her jumping from the 2nd-story window of her house, resulting in her becoming paralyzed from the waist down. While she was recovering in the hospital, she received a visitor, a Pentecostal evangelist named Cindy Lawson, who claimed to have successfully performed 10 real exorcisms before, having witnessed people's eyes changing colors during the ritual, and even a few cases of levitation. Lawson claimed that God had spoken to her and told her to go to the hospital where she would find Amy, who was unknowingly possessed by demons. Stamatis agreed to let Lawson perform an exorcism. And though she has no memory of how the event went down, family members who were present claimed to see an instant change in Amy after it was complete. Number 4. The infamous Arne Johnson case. 1981. In 1981, a young boy in Brookfield, Connecticut named David Glatzel began having vivid night terrors. As time went on, these nightmares began infiltrating his everyday life, with him seeing haunting figures such as an old man with a white beard, a man with big black eyes and animalistic features and jagged teeth. He then began engaging in bizarre behavior like kicking, biting, seizures, and marks of strangulation appearing out of nowhere. His family reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren, who concluded that David was possessed by a demon. Priests performed 3 exorcisms on David, which supposedly caused him to levitate. In the chaos, the boyfriend of Debbie, David's older sister, Arne Johnson, confronted the demon and told it to leave the child alone and to take him instead. David made a full recovery, but the demon decided to take Arne up on his offer. A few months later, Arne stabbed his landlord to death, and upon apprehension claimed that the devil made him do it. His trial marked the first time in history that someone entered a plea of not guilty for reasons of demonic possession, although this plea was rejected. David was charged with manslaughter and served 5 years of his 20-year sentence, and ended up marrying Debbie Glatzer. Their story was loosely adapted into the 3rd Conjuring film, which follows Ed and Lorraine Warren's involvement with the case.
Number 2 on this list is the Blood Falls. Once again, we have a naturally occurring wonder that people believe is actually a hidden message from the devil. Let me tell you the geological explanation of this, and then I'll tell you the possible demonic explanation. Atlas Obscura says, roughly 2 million years ago, the Taylor Glacier sealed beneath it a small body of water, which contained an ancient community of microbes. Trapped below a thick layer of ice, they have remained there ever since, isolated inside a natural time capsule. Evolving independently of the rest of the living world, these microbes exist in a place with no light or free oxygen and little heat, and are essentially the definition of primordial ooze. The trapped lake has very high salinity and is rich in iron, which is what gives the waterfall its red color. A fissure in the glacier allows the subglacial lake to flow out, forming the falls without contaminating the ecosystem within. So that's the geological explanation. The one involving the devil isn't as calm and cool though. This legend says that a man died and was sent to hell. Now he got there and obviously didn't love where he was. The man was continuously tortured and mistreated, as we can all expect from being in hell. Well, apparently this particular man wasn't about staying here forever. One day he attempted a daring escape and actually made it pretty far. He found a gateway between hell and the natural world. This gateway led directly to Antarctica, where the falls are now. He made it back to our physical world, but then the devil showed up. The devil brutally mutilated and cut the man to pieces, creating a waterfall of blood. The devil then sealed this blood in ice as a warning and message to everyone left on Earth never to attempt to go in or out of hell. Finally, number 1 on this list is the Codex Gigas. This book often makes all of our lists when we're talking about the most haunted or most cursed books ever, and rightfully so. This book, written many years ago, was literally by the hand of the devil. Mental Floss says the book's sinister reputation stems from a full-color portrait of the devil contained in its pages and a legend about how the image got there. According to folklore, the book is the work of a monk, possibly Hermanus Heremitas or Herman the Recluse, who had broken his vows and been sentenced to be walled up alive in the monastery. He struck a deal to save himself. If, over the course of a single night, he could write a book containing all the world's knowledge, his life would be spared. When he realized the task was impossible, the monk sold his soul to the devil, who helped him finish the book and signed it with the now infamous portrait. Now, I'd love to tell you guys what message the devil left for us in here, but that would require me to read the book myself, which I have absolutely no intention of ever doing. Legends have been told of people becoming insane and losing their minds and all sense of reality after reading it. So, even if I did read it with the intention of relaying the messages to you guys, I don't know if I'd even be capable of doing so. It's been kept in Sweden's National Library and has been there for several hundred years. If you guys wanted to go and give it a read, I don't recommend it.
Number 5, the Ouija board. Starting this list off because, well, this one's pretty obvious, and there's some even weirder ones ahead, so buckle up. The Ouija board is a board game most popularized by teens in the 1970s, when fads were at a heightened time. The Ouija board has earned its reputation over the years, although it was created almost 100 years before that. Go on. The year is 1891, and as the first ads started appearing in papers, Ouija the wonderful talking board. Extra, extra, read all about it. The title from a Pittsburgh toy and novelty shop. The first paper described a magical game that answered questions about the past, present, and future with marvelous accuracy. An advertisement in a New York newspaper titled it interesting and mysterious as proven at patent office before it was allowed. Price? $1.50. Okay, so chilling and affordable. A flat board with the letters of the alphabet configured into 2 semicircles, above the numbers 0 through 9, the words yes and no in the upper corners, goodbye at the bottom. No batteries included nor needed. A planchette, like a little teardrop shaped tool used to maneuver about the board. Sounds simple enough. The idea was that 2 or more people would sit around the board and place their fingertips on the planchette and ask a question out loud. After a moment or two, the planchette seemed to start moving to the corresponding letters, spelling out an eerie message from who knows where. The origins are messy, and it's hard to pinpoint who or what inspired early attempts at this game and its humble beginnings. It kinda just appeared on the shelves. Spooky. After the 1850s, the Fox sisters of New York had popularized spiritualism, and the US started flooding with the interest in spirituality, towing the line of religion-related thrill-seeking. The Kennard Novelty Company exclusively made and marketed these talking boards. One thing, however, is that they didn't have a name for this new game. Apparently, the lore goes that one of the men who also owned and founded Kennard Toys' sister was a medium, and when asked the board what it would like to be called, to which it responded, Ouija. When asked what the name meant, it responded with, good luck. Terrifying! Hey, at least good sportsmanship. Good lucks and good games? Kind of nice touch before it spells out your fate, no? One thing I know for sure is that I'm never playing this game. Number 4, hide and seek alone. Hide and seek alone has gotten some pretty dramatic online traffic throughout the past 20-ish years. Results from people who try it, write about it, and avoid it are all pretty interesting to say the least. Though it's a bit of an elaborate ritual, the game, you summon a ghost into a doll or stuffed animal at around 3 a.m. and then invite the possessed doll for a friendly game of hide and seek. First off, who's doing this? Second off, it's 3 a.m. I'm old. I'm sleeping by this point. Third, I don't do dolls, man. Creepy. Surfacing in the 2000s on the deepest spots of the web, this frightening and spiritually challenging game has made waves and enforced that serious problems could arise if played wrong. How do you mess up hide and seek? Ah, found you. In some cases, the rituals call for very specific details. Other times, a very loose game setup. Some dolls were even stuffed with rice instead of cotton, and apparently toenails from the player for a DNA connection were added to the object. It's at times like these that these legends start sounding very fake. Or do they? Sometimes needing red sewing string to stitch and repair the now ready teammate, the ritual has been started. The game is played at 3 AM and some say 3:33 is the ideal time to play, in which the player washes the doll and explains to it the rules of the game and the participants playing. I will hide and you will come find me. It's always when you're hiding that you all of a sudden have to pee. So bad. Always. And what happens when the doll finds you? Apparently the deep web has story after story about the countless effects on this game and doesn't recommend it, due to all the stresses to come after. Apparently the process of ridding the spirit of your home at the end of the game has been the most challenging part. Who'd have thought? Would help if there was an instruction manual, of course. Of course I won't be playing this game at any time soon, I'll be sleeping at that hour. Much safer.
Number 3, Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson could play the blues real well. In fact, he played it so darn well that people suspected he wasn't just really in tune with the music, but had made a deal with the devil to pluck the strings. Johnson was born in Mississippi in May 1911 and lived alongside his 9 siblings. Good gosh, imagine the rush for the bathroom in the mornings. He eventually made his way to Memphis, where he discovered his love for the blues, and boy howdy could he play them. By all accounts, he was a legendary harmonica player, but initially his friends would describe him as a pretty lousy guitarist. Well, practice makes perfect, right? Well, practice and demonic transaction. Because the story goes that Johnson would disappear for a few weeks entirely and buried his guitar at the crossroads of the now famous Highways 49 and 61 in Clarksdale, Mississippi, where the devil retuned his instrument and blessed his hands with the unnatural skills that made him a legend. When he started playing again, he was an overnight master of the blues. Now, unfortunately, the blues is born out of tragedy, and Robert Johnson was sadly no different. He passed away at the fairly early age of 27, the infamous age in which rock stars and famous musicians are purported to die with an alarming regularity. Amy Winehouse, Kurt Cobain, to rattle off a few. What makes this particular death odd, though, is how few details exist. His death was never reported, no autopsy ever performed, no cause ever given. The only thing we have to go on is local folklore. One in particular tells the story of Johnson playing at a country dance, where Johnson had been flirting with a married woman, and she gave Johnson a bottle of whiskey, which was slapped out of his hands by Sonny Boy Williamson, another musician at the exact same show. And he told him not to drink anything that he hadn't personally seen the lid come off of, which is fairly good advice. And Johnson responded by saying, "Don't ever knock a drink out of my hand." Johnson would die in a convulsive state 3 days later, with some believing that he'd been poisoned by the woman and her husband as revenge. Or perhaps it was just the devil coming back for the merchandise that he paid for, his soul. Number 2, Agrippa. Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa was a scholar living in the 15th century with one of the coolest names ever. Corny Agrippa. Agrippa devoted his life to writing about the occult. Now, I can freely talk to you about the occult, the devil, and all manner of blasphemous heretical things, but things haven't always been so liberal. And way back when, even so much of breathing about the devil was tantamount to sinning, so Agrippa was not a man without controversy. He wrote of the devil in great, intricate detail. His books would include information breaking down exactly how witches cast spells and perform incantations and rituals, and even shared where they get all of their cool outfits, big hats, and big stomping boots. It's mostly Hot Topic and doll skill. So where did Agrippa get all of this information? Was he just making it up? Was he really in tune with the local scene? Kind of. He claimed that when he was a young man, he gave in to the temptation of Satan and ran with a convent of witches, going around engaging in rituals and casting spells, and I gotta be honest, that sounds awesome. I did a similar thing when I followed Grimes on tour. Eventually, Agrippa is said to have cleaned up a little, got over his goth phase, and said to have found Jesus and saved his soul, and began to write books preaching the good word about how you should let Jesus in your life and push the devil on out of here. Surprisingly, Agrippa was never executed despite his open nature regarding his witchcraft and occult days. It's a common misconception that he was executed for his heresy, but actually in the end, Agrippa pushed people to be more understanding of demons and the devil and pushed for people to know their enemy. He wanted to save people from the devil's grasp and save them through prayer rather than just burning them all at the stake, which is a noble goal. And number 1, Anna Ecklund. Perhaps you've heard the story of Anna Ecklund before. We've covered it on the channel, I think, and it was made into a popular movie, appropriately enough titled The Exorcism of Anna Ecklund, so you don't confuse it with any other exorcism movies out there. Now, Anna's story is infamous. She's a young woman from America who has the dubious award of having the world's longest exorcism, spanning decades of exorcising. Those demons were in there good. Those are demons with like rent control. You're not getting them out of that apartment. It will begin in 1912 when Ecklund underwent an exorcism by Father Theophilus Reisinger, a Bavarian priest. It seemed like things were successful and Anna was freed, but then in 1928, Anna began exhibiting all the telltale signs of demonic possession yet again, and Reisinger returned to perform a second exorcism on Ecklund. Ecklund was taken into a convent on August 1928 to be dealt with round the clock. She would behave oddly, to say the least, hissing at them like a cat, flying into fits of violent rage when offered food that had been doused in holy water. This exorcism was brutal even by exorcism standard, with Ecklund allegedly levitating, howling, hanging out the door frame. Ecklund was believed to be possessed by not just any old rank-and-file demon, but allegedly was possessed by Judas Iscariot, big celebrity demon inside, alongside the ghost of her own father. Who had an affair with her aunt and had made unwanted advances to Anna in life. After months of exercising, and not the good kind, Anna's body deteriorated. She would vomit up debris, her head and face swelled, she refused to consume food or drink. Eventually, after months and years of exorcism, on December 23rd, the final day of the exorcism, the battle was won and Anna was freed, and by all accounts went on to live a fairly normal life afterwards. A Christmas miracle if there ever was one.
Number 5 on this list is the Devil's Town. The Devil's Town is a place in Serbia that's basically a collection of very interesting natural forming rocks, or at least we think it's natural forming. Mehana Mihajovic says the Devil's Town is one of the widely known places in Serbia. Situated between two ravines of the creepy names the Devil's Ravine and Hell's Ravine, there lies the spookiest natural monument. Over 200 randomly formed stone poles up to 20 meters in height. Almost all the poles carry the black cap from volcanic rock andesite, adding to the overall peculiar atmosphere around the place. Close to the locality, there are fresh mineral water wells and ruins of an old church. The mysticism of the Devil's Town Natural Monument keeps fueling the imagination of the local people. One of the widely known legends suggests that a long time ago, local people threw a wedding party for a brother and a sister that fell in love with little help from the devil's spells. God wanted to punish all the attendees and turned them into the stones where they still lay to this day. The other legend suggests that the devil's poles are actually local kids who refused to learn and decided to live an immoral life stripped of knowledge. It sure sounds like a great way to make your kids do their homework. So regardless of which legend you choose to believe in, this is evidence that the devil was once around here. As far as what sort of message this leaves behind, I guess you need to be the one to decide, right? Is this a way for the devil to just reinforce his legitimacy? Is this a way for the devil to instill fear in people? Is this a way for the devil to tell us that we should actually be fearing God? These are all interesting things to consider and think about when we're talking about the Devil's Town. I will say something and give the devil a little credit. If these rocks were actually formed by him in some devilish activity, then honestly, nice work, man. They're very cool and made a strong push to become part of the 7 natural wonders of the world. Maybe people decided to leave them out of that list though, because promoting something created by the devil himself might not be the best idea. Comment down below what you guys think this weird and creepy formation of rocks could truly mean. Number 4 on this list is Hotel California. Hotel California California is right up there as being one of rock's best songs ever. I feel like I have a very special connection to the Eagles classic because I remember in 10th grade or sometime in high school, I had to do a project breaking down a classic song and looking at the lyrics and really evaluating them. I decided to do mine on Hotel California, and it was through this project that I learned something very interesting about this piece of music. Hotel California may have been partly written by the devil. Thoman says it's not only on Halloween that you can expect the devil to be up to no good in the background. For example, with the super hit Hotel California by the Eagles, when played in reverse, the secret message says, "Satan, he hears this. He had me believe incredible or verifiable." Was the ruler of hell involved making the Eagles' greatest hits album the best-selling album of the 20th century in the US? Now, this is the message you get when you play it backwards, but you don't even need to play it backwards to get some pretty weird messages just listening to it in general. The whole song itself is a complete trip. One line in the song says, "This could be heaven or this could be hell." Another line says, "We are all just prisoners here of our own device." And finally, the song finishes by saying, "You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave." The whole song itself could be one big metaphor for hell, let alone the secret message in the song that you hear when you listen to it in reverse. What do you guys think? Was this actually the work from the devil? Number 3 on this list is the Daeves. The Daeves actually come from the religion Zoroastrianism and are part of that religion's demonic entities. If you're unfamiliar with that religion, then just know that it is one of the oldest religions ever and is still being practiced today. Well, there are tons of messages in scripture and artwork describing these demons that basically act as warning messages to all who may have the misfortune of running into them. Grunge says, traditionally Daeves are thought to be the creation of Ahriman, an antagonist and equally powerful counterpart to the benevolent creator. In one of their religious texts, the Gigas, Daeves are described as rejected gods with an affinity for evil who, for whatever reason, still hold sway with some followers. One of their chief character traits is an inability to discern truth from lies, making them at least psychologically adjacent and possibly directly related to most roommates that you've likely met on Craigslist. All kidding aside though, these things can be very, very dangerous, and many people believe that a lot of the work and scripture that talks about them, that was actually left behind from the devil. The purpose of doing this was to strike fear into people and make them start to distrust their fellow human.
Number 3, CE5. Demonic forces come in many shapes and sizes. I chose this topic next on the list because I feel that this is the way we're headed, and it's absolutely terrifying for our world and theirs. Dr. David M. Greer is an American ufologist and founder of the Center for Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence and director of the Disclosure Project. Cele started in 1990 to create a civil and research-based initiative to contact ET civilizations. The group defined CE5, or Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, as human-initiated contact and communication with ET life. Cele claims to have over 3,000 confirmed reports of UFO sightings by pilots alone, and Cele has designed a protocol for human-initiated contact to UFOs using a form of consciousness. Oh yeah, and high-grade military lasers. Namaste, dude. Hey, that's pretty sick. The goal of which to publicly disclose the government's alleged knowledge of UFOs. I'm all for it. Extraterrestrial intelligence, and of course, advanced energy and propulsion systems. The summoning part comes in the form of Greer's overnight trips to see these ETs in person. This week-long intensive workshop is limited to about 25 guests and provides an intensive training program with Dr. Greer, which each night will go out and make contact using the very effective CE5 contact protocols. Located in Costa Mesa, California, researchers can expect to be alongside him for a lesson in meditation and consciousness. Greer has an audiobook out on how to summon ET craft yourself, and has numerous documentaries surrounding the topic. What do you think? Is this guy a real deal? I think so. Especially with all this UAP NASA stuff that's going on. Who knows? Number 2, Furbies. If you grew up in the 90s like me, then you must remember Furbies. They were everywhere. And then all of a sudden, nowhere. A Furby is an American electronic robot toy that was originally released in 1998 by Tiger Electronics. It resembles an owl or gremlin-like creature and went through a period of being a small craze to have become an overnight sensation in the 90s. Following its holiday season launch, with continual sales up until the year 2000, Over 40 million Furbies were sold during the 3 years of its original production, with 1.8 million sold in 1998 and 14 million in 1999. Its speaking capabilities were translated into 24 languages, and this is where it starts getting messed up. And I know, because I had one. Furbies were the first successful attempt to produce and sell out domesticated enhanced AI systems. A newly purchased Furby starts out speaking entirely Furbish, the unique language that all Furbies use. Cute. But it's programmed to start using English words as soon as it learns them, in place of Furbish over time, as it just sits there, listening to you. Or sometimes even in the middle of the night, demonically talking to you. Remember that? The voices? Feed me, feed me. This process is intended to resemble the process of gibberish and learning English slowly. So sophisticated for its time. The updated Furby with voice recognition and more complex facial movements was sold by Hasbro between 2005 and 2007. Another updated Furby with even LCD eyes and a mobile app was released for the holiday season in 2012. There were a couple of red flags that had us convinced they were possessed right from the beginning. First off, they don't speak with batteries. Even if the entirety of the wiring is ripped out of them, they wake you up in the middle of the night, usually saying some messed up shit from the other room, and would occasionally start speaking in tongues. I know, because I heard it. I'm pretty sure that's all the red flags and requirements of a haunted toy, people. And number 1, haunted video game. The Haunted Majora's Mask cartridge story, commonly referred to as Ben Drowned, is a creepypasta story and deep web find. This one personally gives me chills just thinking about it because I've personally watched a 5-hour speed run of this craziness. Please, do some homework, you must on this one. Not only because Majora's Mask is a beautiful game, but the crazy horror urban legend that was born is very scary. The story retells paranormal events that occurred to a sophomore gamer on a college campus, upon receiving a second-hand Nintendo 64 cartridge from a friend claiming that he had received the game from an old man throwing out free games. Excited, the gamer tore home and tore into this game. But then, he begins to notice misplaced and missing graphics, added scenes, and even strange connections to a boy named Ben, who was said to have died 8 years before, from within the game. Huh? Majora's Mask is already scary enough. The story attracted many believers from all across the Zelda fandom community, including myself, and still does time to time, although sources have confirmed that this is just a story made up from developers and run to consumers. You got me, dude. I sat through like 6 hours of Link snapping his back, terrified.
Number 5, Niccolò Paganini. The first up on our list today of people who summoned the devil or a demon of some kind is Niccolò Paganini, who was once called the devil's violinist, which is quite the nickname, looks great on a resume. I didn't know the devil really hired out help like that. Paganini, which does sound a bit like a delicious sandwich, was born in 1782 in Genoa, Italy. Under his father's influence, he was given lessons by renowned violinists, quickly becoming a prodigy. His musical talents were praised, and he was given all manner of scholarships. He had his first performance at 11, and by age 15 he was already touring around Italy performing, just in case you needed something to compare yourself to and feel bad about your own achievements. Don't feel bad, I'm 26, I haven't toured Italy once. He was particularly well known for being able to perform recitals without sheet music. He memorized everything and was apparently able to play 12 notes a second at an inhuman speed. Now, while this could be explained by the fact that he'd been raised to play the violin in a Spartan-like upbringing, locals around Genoa began to whisper and tell stories of how he must have sold his soul to be able to play the violin like that. It also didn't help much that Niccolò's pale, lanky, and quite ghost-like appearance made people a bit suspicious of the guy. I get it, as someone who's very tall, lanky, and ghost-like, people ask me all the time, Taylor, did you sell your soul to be so good at YouTube hosting? The answer? Yes. Paganini was a striking man with hollow cheeks, pale skin, and very long, thin fingers, which did not calm many of these rumors down. These things plagued his reputation, with people claiming outlandish things, saying they'd seen him with hooves, they'd seen him talking to the devil. Some say his violin was made out of the intestines of a woman he'd slain, and her soul was trapped in his violin, which I guess would make it sound beautiful. Now, in the end, Paganini would contract tuberculosis, and found himself getting weaker and weaker as the months and years went by. Before his death, he turned away last rites from a Catholic priest, saying he didn't need him because he wasn't going to die. He would pass shortly after. Was it because he'd already made his last rites with Satan, or was he just confident? It's up to you to decide. And if you're looking for more freaky stories of demonic possession, exorcisms, and all that jazz, we've got loads of that on the channel. If ghosts and goblins ain't your jam, we've got cryptids, conspiracies, aliens, government cover-ups, basically anything scary above or under the sun, we've covered it more than a few times. So click on through, hit that bell to not miss a single scream, but please, do that at the end of this video, okay? We got way more scary stories coming up for you. Number 4, Latoya Ammons. Our next entry on this list is Latoya Ammons and her mother Rosa Campbell, involving an infamous haunting that is sometimes referred to as the 200 Demon House or the Demon House. That's a lot of demons. A family moved into a new house in Gary, Indiana, only to quickly discover that the house already had plenty of residents. They claimed that black flies would swarm the porch every single day in December in a climate that should reasonably have had them die off. Mother Rosa Campbell claims she heard footsteps in the basement and doors creaking, and witnessed a shadowy specter of a man pacing around her living room, claiming he was leaving behind boot prints. Now that's pretty scary. But the most wild claim was that this spirit man once choked her directly. Rosa's daughter Latoya claimed that she levitated above her daughter while unconscious during a sleepover, leading to her friend praying for her safety until she returned to the ground. Another wild incident describes an unknown force pushing the son of the family firmly into a wall, with a voice in the back of his head screaming, "It's time to die." Strangely, the family didn't decide to, burn the house down and move out and change state lines, but instead reached out to their family physician. You know the old saying, when there's something strange, who are you gonna call? Your local general practitioner. Well, the doc visited the house and noted that he thought the behavior of the family was delusional. So the family went to Father Michael Maganote in 2012, who was called in to perform an exorcism. He believed the family had unintentionally summoned a demon and were being tormented by hundreds of demons. And the real estate agent didn't mention that, did he? In the end, the father exorcised the house, and the Ammons family moved to Indianapolis in peace, where they now await a movie deal from 20th Century Fox, I'm certain.
Number 4, Crybaby Bridge. Down in Georgia, where all kinds of creepypastas and urban legends are running amok, there is one bridge famous for its boogeyman, Crybaby Bridge. Now, there are many bridges that have picked up this name in the US, but this one stands apart. What is an unassuming rickety wooden bridge with no safety rails during the daytime is the most haunted bridge in Georgia by night. The legends say that a single mother, crying and hoping for the end, was driving one rainy night with a small passenger in the back seat. Blinded by the rain and her own distraught tears, she drove off the rickety bridge that would later become Crybaby Bridge. The water below was not horribly deep, but for a woman who didn't care for her life and the helpless one in the back, the water brought the end. Since that day, a legend arose warning against anyone who dare stop on the bridge and turn off their headlights. Who better to test out urban legends than a group of 6 bored teenagers who had read the urban legend and decided to investigate. They piled into a car and drove out to Crybaby Bridge on a dark, unlit road surrounded by dense thickets of trees and brush. The teenagers drove out onto the 30-foot bridge as it creaked and crackled under the weight of their car. All at once, they agreed to get out of the car, but as they did, something below used their movement as cover for its own. The group grew quiet, trying to bring on whatever was supposed to happen, but as they grew quiet, so did the nightlife around. No crickets, no birds, no frogs. After a moment of silence, the faint sound of a crying baby slowly began to echo from downstream. Below the bridge, something was moving, trying to slip through the water without making too much sound. Then, a figure, man-like but all out of whack, appeared at the end of the bridge. It had a huge face with little beady black eyes, a huge nose but flattened. The face was covered in thick, reddish hair, and from its mouth were the sounds of a crying baby. But as the teens shone their light on this creature, the crying stopped. Now, the 9-foot tall creature stepped forward, a huge, muscular creature with elongated arms. As the teens recoiled in horror, another similar creature began reaching up from under the bridge, trying to get a hold on an ankle. This was a trap. What happens next? Well, you have to read the rest for yourself, sorry. Number 3, the Bye-Bye Man. Eli was a graduate student living in the town of Sun Prairie, Wisconsin in the fall of 1990 with his girlfriend Catherine and a friend named Jonathan. Someone had found an old Ouija board in an attic and for fun gave it to the 3 friends who had been living together. Just like any group of friends would, the 3 began conducting experiments with the board, seeing if this whole superstition thing was real. Turns out they had a pretty wild ride. After they believed they had communicated with a number of spirits, they decided to make an effort to contact a spirit that had actually been a living human. The board eventually transmitted the story of the Bye-Bye Man, a blind albino man born in Louisiana sometime in the 1920s. According to the story, his parents put him in an orphanage in Algiers, New Orleans, where he was shunned. The boy eventually escaped the orphanage and turned to the life of a killer. Jumping on trains and traveling around wherever he wanted, he was accompanied by his companion called Gloomsinger, which was a dog-like creature sewn together from the tongues and the eyes of his victims. Well, unfortunately, the three friends, Eli, Catherine, and Jonathan, were told via the Ouija board that the spirit of the Bye-Bye Man had latched onto them and that he was coming for them. Apparently, anyone who thought of or said the Bye-Bye Man's name became his next target. He then began riding the rails in their direction, sending out Gloomsinger to locate the person. Once they were found, Gloomsinger would let out a shrill whistle to call to the Bye-Bye Man. The history of the Bye-Bye Man is traced back to a teenager who told a reporter that he took his family's lives because the Bye-Bye Man made him do it. Luckily for Eli, Catherine, and Jonathan, they were not driven to hurt anyone, but they were definitely scared out of their skin. There is a movie based on this story, but in that one, things don't end so nicely. Number 2, Terry Sherman. The great thing about the boogeyman is that it has no one form. It's just the manifestation of whatever people fear. For the Native American Navajo people, this would be the skinwalker. Now before I get into this, everything I tell you is coming from the brief amounts of research I did when making this video, so if I get something wrong or mispronounce certain things, feel free to politely correct me in the comments below. Similar but not the same to the Russian Baba Yaga, the skinwalker is a kind of wicked sorcerer who can transform into, occupy, or disguise themselves as an animal. It has deep roots in Aboriginal American folklore. Other tribes throughout the region also have their own versions of the skinwalker. The Pueblo people, Apache, and Hopi people each have their own unique interpretation of what a skinwalker might be. Some believe that skinwalkers are produced when a medicine man abuses magic for evil, corrupting the natural order of things, turning them into an evil entity capable of controlling and turning into animals, or even possessing others. There's also another version that says that one becomes a skinwalker by performing some kind of taboo act, similar to the tale of the Wendigo. In Navajo stories, the Nagloshi were agents for the holy people when they were first training humans in the blessing way. Nagloshi were supposed to abandon the mortal world with the holy people, but a few decided to stay behind. Their greed and desire to stay in the mortal plane corrupted the power the holy people gave them and transformed them into malicious, semi-divine beings. Now, I'm actually putting myself in quite a bit of danger here even talking about this, as these beings are not something you are supposed to talk about. Even the people who named this being aren't willing to talk about it, especially not with outsiders, so be courteous and don't go asking about it. Most of you have likely heard of Sherman Ranch, also known as Skinwalker Ranch. This ranch near Ballard, Utah is apparently a cursed lot of land that has had many different kinds of encounters. One is of interest to us right now. Terry Sherman, the owner of the property way back in 1996, was walking his dogs around the farm late at night when he came upon a wolf. A wolf 3 times the size of a regular one with glowing red eyes and an incredibly mean look. Terry claims to have attacked the beast, but no evidence is actually available. Was this the Navajo's boogeyman? Who knows? Number 1, Cropsy. Okay, this one is going to get a bit more real. In Staten Island, USA, a tale of a boogeyman-like creature named Cropsy was famous among many kids who lived in the area. Cropsy was said to be an axe-wielding man who escaped from a mental institution and would lurk around in the dark tunnels below the old abandoned Willowbrook State School, a facility for children with intellectual disabilities that was shuttered after allegations of horrific mistreatment were exposed. The story says Cropsy comes out at night to snatch young people and bring them back into the abandoned Willowbrook. But the horror tale was actually a horrifying reality. Cropsy was in actuality Andre Rand, a suspected killer who was convicted for the passing of 2 young individuals in the 1970s. In keeping with the tale, Rand worked as a janitor at Willowbrook in the mid-1960s. Before his capture, Rand was homeless and living in a makeshift campsite on the grounds of the abandoned school, not far from the Seaview Hospital that was so closely tied to the Cropsy legend. Rand's story and the tale of Cropsy continues to fascinate and horrify kids and even adults to this day. In fact, two filmmakers, Joshua Zeman and Barbara Brancaccio, grew up on Staten Island and listened to the terrifying Cropsy stories when they were children. As adults, their curiosity led them to dig deeper into the urban legend of Cropsy and the real cases of the island's missing people. They even made a documentary, Cropsy, that explores the bizarre case of the boogeyman who seemed to come to life.
Number 5. The Cult of Dionysus. The Cult of Dionysus has sparked dark speculations and controversies over many years. It's a highly secretive organization, and knowing what exactly occurs within the privacy of members is unknown. Just to list a few of the many theories, here are some of the dark speculations and controversies surrounding the Cult of Dionysus. Quote, excess and madness. The cult's celebration of intoxication and ecstasy led to accusations of excess and madness. Critics argued that the excessive consumption of wine and the frenzied behavior of cult participants could lead to a breakdown of societal order and morality, moral and social disruption. Many in the ancient world viewed the Bacchanalian and Dionysian festivals as a threat to established social norms. The rejection of traditional roles and the temporary suspension of societal rules during these festivals raised concerns about moral and social disruption. Bodily liberation. Some Dionysian rituals were associated with liberation and promiscuity. Some believed that these practices would lead to licentious behavior and the erosion of traditional family structures. Foreign influence. The cult of Dionysus was often associated with foreign influence and was viewed with suspicion by those who feared the introduction of foreign beliefs and practices into their culture. Accusations of political subversion. In some instances, the cult was seen as a potential threat to political stability. Rulers and authorities worried that the Dionysian festivals could be used as a cover for political subversion or rebellion. Mystery and secrecy. The secret and exclusive nature of some Dionysian rites gave rise to speculations and conspiracy theories. The mystery of religion aspect of the cult fueled rumors and concerns about what might be happening behind closed doors. Tragedies and harm. The association of Dionysus with tragedy in Greek drama led to the belief that participation in Dionysian rituals could result in real-life tragedies and harm. End quote. Though the speculations likely do hold some truth, being able to definitively answer whether any or all of these theories are true is impossible. Records of the cult's activity were often exaggerated through misunderstandings or misinterpretations of the cult's practices. But it is thought that many of the rituals have been spotted throughout history, hinting that the cult may not be as inactive as many think. Number 4. The Blackburn Cult. May Otis Blackburn's cult, which is referred to with many names, including the Order of the Doves and, of course, the Blackburn cult, was a controversial religious movement that emerged in Los Angeles, California. The cult's beliefs and practices were described as a combination of mysticism, apocalyptic prophecies, and unorthodox spiritual teachings. The cult was unofficially founded in the early 1920s, centering its teachings on the notion that May Otis Blackburn, their leader and founder, was a chosen prophet, selected by divine forces to guide followers through the impending end of the world. May claimed to receive direct revelations and instructions from angels and other spiritual entities. She warned her followers to prepare for the looming apocalypse, leading them into believing that only they would be saved from the cataclysmic events she spoke of. The beliefs also included select sections of witchcraft and mysticism, which actually led to legal troubles for May Otis Blackburn and her followers. In 1929, she, along with her son Raymond, faced a high-profile trial in which they were accused of practicing witchcraft and defrauding their followers. The trial received significant media attention and portrayed the cult as a group of radicals who manipulated their members for personal gain. May Otis Blackburn was a writer also. She produced numerous books and pamphlets to spread her religious doctrines and apocalyptic visions. These writings played a crucial role in spreading her teachings and attracting new converts to the Order of the Doves. Despite the cult's strange practices and legal challenges, it managed to gather a following during its existence. However, However, the relentless scrutiny from the law surrounding a certain body found under a house frequented by the cult, and disturbed opinions from the public ultimately led to its disbandment. May Otis Blackburn's life took a quieter turn after the cult's dissolution, and she passed away in 1951. But to this day, it's not known certainly whether there are still practicing members, whether it be people who grew up in the cult or those whose parents raised them under the set of beliefs. Number 3. Order of Nine Angels. The Order of Nine Angels, or the ONA, is one of the most mysterious and highly controversial groups in the world of modern Satanism and the occult. The ONA was founded in the UK in the 1960s, promoting extreme and often dangerous forms of Satanism. Its core beliefs and practices are complex and unconventional, which has led to bouts of intense debate and controversy, from Satanists and non-practicing communities alike. The heart of their philosophy is the concept of the sinister tradition, which is a radical, committed path that encourages members to challenge societal norms and embrace chaos and darkness. They view Satan as a symbol of rebellion against the established order, advocating for personal transformation through dark and sometimes harmful experiences. One of the most notorious aspects of the ONA is its advocacy for culling, a term they use to describe acts of harm and even Homo sapien sacrifice. Some of the ONS's writings are extremely dark and grossly disturbing, further demonstrating their deeply antisocial and extremist perspective. While they remain a highly secretive, tight-knit, and controversial group, their writings and philosophy have managed to spread widely and even found their way into other areas of the occult, impacting various forms of alternative spirituality. The Order of the Nine Angels remains a fringe and extremist organization to this day. Their beliefs and practices are widely criticized and condemned for their proud and loud promotion of harm and extremism. As with any belief system, it's important to approach their beliefs with caution and to be aware of the potential harm and danger it can pose, especially if it's taken to the extreme.
Number 3. Roland Doe, 1949. In 1949, a young boy was mourning the loss of his aunt, who had been a deeply committed spiritualist who had taught the child how to use a Ouija board so that he could converse with spirits. The boy, whose name was changed to Roland Doe in the reports of the incident to preserve his anonymity, soon began hearing strange scratching noises coming from inside his bedroom walls and having issues with his mattress vigorously shaking on its own. His parents took him to medical professionals who could find nothing wrong with the boy. When the family minister also failed to find anything, the boy's parents enlisted Father E. Albert Hughes, who received permission from the church to perform an exorcism on Roland. This attempt didn't end up working out, as Roland tore a spring out of his mattress during the ritual and slashed the priest across the shoulders. Upon inspection of Roland, his mother discovered that the word Louis had been scratched onto his flesh. She took this as a sign to go to St. Louis, where she met Father Walter H. Halloran and the Reverend William Bowdern. They attempted nightly exorcisms on the boy, during which the child was sent into a rage at the sight of a crucifix, caused the bed to rattle, and made items fly across the room. The clergymen found a large X scratched on Roland, which caused them to conclude that he was possessed by 10 different demons. On the 21st attempt, Roland gained control of himself, claiming that the spirits were gone, and that he had had visions of St. Michael fighting and defeating the devil on his behalf. Roland never suffered any further incidents of demonic interference again, but the story of his ordeal inspired the novel The Exorcist, which was adapted into the classic horror film of the same name. Number 2. Gottlieben Dittus, 1842. Our next entry takes us to the German village of Mottlingen in 1842. Residents of this sleepy village started to notice strange noises and odd goings-on at the home of a 28-year-old woman named Gottlieben Dittus, who believed that her house was being haunted by the ghost of a woman who was always seen carrying a baby in her arms. Dittus began being affected and would drift in and out of a trance-like state, seemingly blacking out for days at a time. The local pastor, Johann Christoph Blumhardt, took it upon himself to free Dittus of her affliction, which had lasted for 2 whole years before he got involved. He claimed that Dittus was possessed by several demons, as well as the spirit of the woman that she had reported seeing, who Blumhardt believed to be the ghost of a local murderous widow who had been known for burying children in a nearby field. The exorcisms he performed on Dittus were horrific, with her reportedly vomiting blood, broken glass, and even nails. The exorcisms continued until one day Daeves appeared to snap out of her possession, declaring that all the demons and spirits had been cast out and that Jesus was the victor. Number 1. Clara, Cele, 1906. In one of the first documented exorcisms in South Africa, a 16-year-old orphan named Clara Germana Cele was staying at the Marion Hill Mission School in Umzinto when she began exhibiting violent behavior. The behavior became more and more extreme until one day the teen began growling, tearing at her clothes, and demanding to speak with the local priest, Father Erasmus Horner. Clara confessed to the priest that she had made a deal with the devil himself, and when the nuns tried to pour holy water on her, her skin began to burn. She would go wild and convulse at the sight of religious iconography, showed immense strength disproportionate to her size, and she began speaking languages that the young teen could not possibly know. When Clara began levitating in front of them, the priest and the nuns got permission to perform an exorcism on her. The exorcism was a wild ordeal, with Clara trying to strangle the priests, levitating at various times, and in perhaps the most horrifying and amazing moment of the ritual, transforming into a serpent who bit one of the nuns. The exorcism lasted for 2 full days and was performed in front of 170 people. By the end of the second day, the demon reportedly caused Clara to levitate one last time before leaving her body, never to return. Clara was demon-free, but unfortunately died 6 years later of heart failure at the age of 22.
Number 2. Sachiko Eto. The bizarre and disturbing saga of Sachiko Eto, the woman who would come to be known as the drumstick killer, began in 1990. It all started when her husband suffered a back injury, which not only incapacitated him, but also led him down a very dark path of drinking and gambling, which ended up pushing the couple into very deep debt, which eventually forced them to sell their home and move to a different town. In their new town, they became involved with a religious group, which was deeply involved in spiritual faith healing. But their involvement didn't last long because they used the organization's name without permission and were expelled. This led to Eto's husband experiencing a mental breakdown and disappearing without a trace in 1992. With her husband gone, the descent into her heinous actions began. She moved approximately 100 miles north of Tokyo and started performing spiritual healings. Eto proclaimed that she was a healer and a psychic, gradually making increasingly grandiose claims. She eventually declared herself a god who possessed the power to drive demons out of people. These statements quickly attracted a large following of devotees who flocked to her for services. Eto's cult grew quickly, with over a dozen believers and their family members living in her home and participating in rituals. Her rituals, involving drumstick beatings meant to end the dirty body and purify the soul, quickly escalated in aggression. She accused some of her followers of being possessed by a bad fox and had them beaten until they were hardly alive. In June of 1995, less than 3 years after Eto moved, one of Eto's followers was hospitalized with severe injuries from a ritual. This follower also reported that her husband had abruptly disappeared after visiting Eto's house. This raised suspicions and led the police to search the premises, where they uncovered a truly horrific scene. 6 decomposing bodies, 2 men and 4 women, were discovered, some mummified and wrapped in futons. All of their lives were ended due to the harm inflicted during Eto's rituals. Eto, her daughter, and a man named Yutaka Nemoto and another follower were arrested and charged with the deaths. Eto's survivor, who had reported the cult, was also arrested. Eto initially claimed that the deaths were unintentional and were simply a part of a religious exorcism. The trial resulted in Eto receiving a life-ending sentence, while her accomplices received prison sentences ranging from 18 years to life. On September 27, 2012, at the age of 65, Eto was hanged after several unsuccessful appeals, hopefully ending the belief system that she created, but no one's quite sure. Number 1. Temple of the Black Light. The Temple of the Black Light, which can also be referred to as the Misanthropic Luciferian Order, MLO, which is what I will be calling it because it's the shortest name. The MLO is a group associated with left-hand path spirituality and philosophy. MLO was founded in Sweden in the early 1990s, and it has gained popularity in cult theorists for its unique approach to Satanism and the left-hand path. The central notion of the MLO is the self-created worship that they call Chaos Gnostic Satanism. What sets them apart from many other satanic groups, MLO's beliefs are rooted in a drastic form of nihilism and a deep desire to embrace chaos, darkness, and spiritual rebellion. Honestly, real. They believe in an intangible force called chaos, which they see as a destructive, creative, and transformative entity that has great power and aims to oppose the order and constraints of the universe. MLO's members revere Lucifer as a symbol of enlightenment, liberation, and defiance against traditional religious and societal norms. However, their interpretation of Lucifer is much different from popular depictions of him. To them, Lucifer represents a dark and chaotic force that opposes established religion and the moral codes of society. The MLO is known for its extreme and often controversial writings, which explore the esoteric beliefs of the religion in depth. Their texts often feature highly complex and cryptic symbolism, which is intended to be understood by those who are deeply committed to the group's philosophy and not for those outside. I mean, that's a good way to reject skeptics. Like, if skeptics were like, dude, this text doesn't make any sense, the members could just say, yeah, well, duh, you wouldn't get it. You can't sit with us. The Temple of the Black Light is considered a highly controversial group within the broader satanic community as well. They are criticized for their extremist and nihilistic views, as their beliefs are not an accurate representation of traditional satanic traditions and beliefs, which normally encompass a wide spectrum of beliefs and practices. The Temple of the Black Light actually remains a small and secretive group that's still active to this day.